Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. How you doing? So I'm back, and we were talking about what do you want in your life, in the world around you.
If feet are numb and the sensation won't go away, do this 30-second biblical ritual to relieve nerve pain. Christians, did you know there's a biblical solution to be free from neuropathy? It has always been hidden in
All right, y'all, welcome to the show. So, bunch of stuff to get into today. In just a second,
This guy.
the war on the First Amendment is officially here. It is here. It's already gotten ugly. It's going to get even uglier as time goes by. So, we'll talk about that. We will also talk about compliant media. The LA Times was caught yet again censoring criticism, this time of RFK, in order to appease Trump. Then we'll get to the very likely illegal actions behind the scenes of the MAGA robber barons who were betting on a massive stock market crash, and then Trump delivered them that crash. Okay, and then we'll get to J.D. Vance. He went full imperialist. We'll get to an MSNBC guest. This professor absolutely torched MSNBC for bending the knee to fascism. And then later on, in today's America, a doctor can be charged with a felony for prescribing an abortion pill, which of course is legal. Go figure. Trump is ordering schools to ease sexual assault rules because of course he is. Of course he is. Epstein's buddy is doing Epstein buddy stuff. So we'll talk about all that and more. Everybody do me a big favor and please subscribe to the channel. It's never going to end, man. Over the next 4 years, we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of things to talk about. Never going to be a dull moment, but I mean that in the worst possible way. So, all right, let's go ahead and dive into it. So we got this news the other day. The Pentagon has informed its resident press corps that NBC, the New York Times, NPR, and Politico will, quote, rotate out of the building to give space to the New York Post, Breitbart, One America News Network, and Huffington Post. Let me explain what this is here. You have some of these media outlets that are like hardcore. They have offices there with a booth and cameras and all that stuff. And they really make a point of having like a whole division of their news agency that is permanently there, right? This is Trump going up to those outlets and going like this. Fuck you. You criticize me. I don't like it when you criticize me. So now we're going to rotate you out when we feel like it, and we're going to bring in, by the way, look at who they're bringing in. 4 of the 5 are deeply right-wing. New York Post, Breitbart, and One America News are super right-wing. My guess is they threw in HuffPost in there to try to pretend like, bro, see, we brought in HuffPost. This is not an ideological thing, bro. Look, 1 of the 5 is not sucking our nuts on a daily basis. So, one of these outlets, I forget which one, but one of them didn't even ask for space, didn't even want to be there. But they said, we're going to kick out NBC, New York Times, NPR, Politico, rotate, and give these right-wing hack outlets some space. Now, the other thing is, I'm sure many of you guys saw this, but the other day, for the first time in history, you had some new media people in a White House press conference, and you'll never guess what posture they took. They're allowing in new media, and the new media is the most pathetic, sycophantic, Trump-loving garbage you've ever heard in your life, which, by the way, gives a horrible name to new media and independent media. And as I pointed out to you, a lot of these outlets pretending to be new media or independent media are no such thing. They're not independent. They're online, so technically I guess they're new. But if you're taking the same kind of corporate money, or if you are sucking up to the establishment and the powerful, as all these Trump lovers are, I'm sorry, you are not independent. You're hacks. You're hacks, and you're subject to the same poor incentives as mainstream media and corporate media. You are simply fake independent media or new corporate media. So this is, again, Trump's attempt to put up his middle finger to outlets that are critical of him and say, no, there's going to be consequences for that. Okay, more. So Bernie points this out, and he's 100% right. We've talked about these cases. Authoritarianism is intimidating the media, curtailing dissent, and undermining our First Amendment. Trump has sued ABC, CBS, Meta, and the Des Moines Register for comments that offended him. His FCC is now investigating PBS and NPR. So think about what went down here. He sued all these media outlets for a variety of reasons. One of them, he said, you misleadingly edited a Kamala interview. What? The Des Moines Register, he's suing them because of the Ann Selzer poll, which had him down 4 points in Iowa, which obviously that poll turned out to be wrong. But he's suing as if there's any case there. He's making the argument, oh, that's you trying to rig it for Kamala. But if anything, wouldn't it be the opposite? If you're telling Democrats, hey, Kamala's up, they'll be more likely to stay home. So that makes no sense. But a lot of these outlets, and I'm sure many of you have seen this, are preemptively caving to Trump, and they're settling with Trump. CBS paid him, what was it, like $15 million over a totally frivolous lawsuit? You have others that are trying to basically settle with him and give him millions of dollars. And what do you think that is, ladies and gentlemen? When a media outlet that's supposed to tell the truth, supposed to do journalism, supposed to fearlessly, blaze their own path and not muzzle themselves, what do you call it when they want to meet with the president who's suing them to settle and pay that president millions of dollars, even though they know that lawsuit is frivolous? To me, that looks like pay to play. To me, that's, hey, dog, be cool. We'll give you some money, but make sure you don't axe our credentials. Make sure you don't, whatever, send the IRS to audit us. Make sure you don't crack down on us with any of the levers of power of government that you have available. That's what that smells like to me. So in other words, the authoritarianism, and people didn't account for this. The authoritarianism, yes, it comes through, hard dictatorial fiat, but it also comes through compliance. It also comes willingly by these so-called news agencies going, hey, we'll play ball. Hey, we'll play ball if you play ball. Maybe we'll go a little lighter on you. Maybe we won't cover so many negative stories. Maybe we'll do a whole bunch more positive stories. If you're cool, hey, here's a little payment. Allow us to keep coming into the Pentagon. Allow us to keep coming to the White House, press briefings. Hey, we're not all that bad, are we? We're not all that bad. This is what we're witnessing. This is what we're witnessing. So again, to reiterate, NBC, New York Times, NPR, and Politico, by the way, outlets that are already sort of preemptively in many respects playing ball. Trump looks at them and goes, you're not playing ball enough. Rotate your ass out of the building. I'm going to bring in all these hack right. One American News and Newsmax are the two outlets that were most dedicated to flat out lying in favor of Trump. They're the ones who were leading the charge. Rigged election, fraudulent election, the 2020 election. It was rigged. They were leading the charge, lying. Many of them had to pay out to one of the voting machine companies that sued them over defamation. And the biggest liars, the biggest ball coddlers, now they're being treated as if they're more prestigious and as if they're the more serious ones. This process that we're witnessing is slowly but surely the destruction of the media and the First Amendment and free speech and free protest. So, hey, you're critical of us? Get out. We'll bring in the ones who are less critical. And also, I have all these lawsuits against all these different media outlets, frivolous lawsuits. But it's basically I think they know the scam that they're running. They know, hey, there's a chance that these media outlets will settle out of court because they don't want to have to pay $10 million in legal fees. So what if they just pay me $5 million as upfront in a deal? And they know that, if they pay me, that might get them out of more trouble. That might make it so I won't crack down on them so hard, and I won't audit them with the IRS, and I won't take a look into their government contracts, and I won't, fill in the blank. But this is what we're witnessing, and this is absolutely devastating. So guys, the war on free speech, the war on the First Amendment, the war on the media is alive and well. We are witnessing out-and-out fascism. And the thing that drives me crazy about all of this was foreseeable. The thing that wasn't foreseeable is
Yes, foreseeable. Because it's been going on the whole time. It's nothing new. Biden, Obama, George W., everybody. This is the same old same.
Is the outlets going to Trump up front and saying, hey, if we break you off a little bit of money, like, we good? That was not foreseeable. I thought there'd be some semblance of dignity and integrity and virtuousness at these outlets, these legacy outlets. Wrong. They're all playing the game. They're all willing to, genuflect at the altar of the authoritarian president. But we knew that there was going to be a war on the First Amendment and on the press. And the reason I say that is because of Trump's fucking record. Guys, we just talked about he sued Ann Seltzer for a poll he didn't like. He sued CBS for how they edited that Kamala interview. He sued Simon & Schuster, the book people, because they released a Bob Woodward book that had a quote Trump didn't like of him in there. I mean, petty authoritarian is just the beginning of it. This guy threatened to de-license news outlets that criticized him. He says we should punish flag burning with a year in jail. That's wildly unconstitutional. He sued CNN for $475 million because CNN called his election denialism the big lie. Even before he was president, he sued Bill Maher for $5 million over a joke. He said repeatedly that he wants to, quote, open up the libel laws to go after journalists that he doesn't like. He called for jailing journalists who reported on the Supreme Court abortion ruling early. He's already signed orders to deport pro-Palestine protesters who might be here on a visa. He gag-ordered the EPA from telling the truth on climate change. He muzzled them. He arrested 6 journalists and charged them with felony rioting. You all know he didn't pardon Assange or Snowden or Daniel Hale. He openly said he wants to invoke the Insurrection Act and deploy U.S. troops against George Floyd protesters and shoot them in the leg. And of course, this is the man who said, I'm going to terminate the Constitution, all rules, regulations, and articles in the Constitution to get back in power when I lost in 2020. This is what he said. So the media looks at all of that and they say, we got to bend the knee. We got to cave. We got to give him some money. We got to lighten up. And that explains why we are where we are now. It's one thing to have the overlord, emperor, god, king, authoritarian, tyrant, dictator go after you. That's one thing. It's another thing to preemptively bend the knee in hopes that he'll look at you and go, oh, they're playing ball now, so I guess it'll be all right. Or put out some more positive stories or reel in the criticism just a little bit. That is, the whole system is rotten and corrupt and disgusting. And we're all witnessing it right in front of our eyes. It's all happening right in front of our eyes. So, if you had hopes of a brave press standing up and telling the truth, if you had hopes of people sticking to their values and having dignity and honor and integrity and leading the charge for righteousness and accuracy in reporting and facts, man, you are mistaken.
Right, because that's how it's been forever. No. This, why I play these people, because they do a much better job of being incensed about all of this than me, right? I've seen this, forever. This has been the way it has been since Babylon, 16,000 years ago. Easy. Nothing's changed, right? But we're at a place where things can change. And that's why Donnie is good, because he is taking it to the mat to the point where guys like that get totally incensed. I need you to start listening to more right-leaning things. Fish, I do, right? This guy, I play him for a reason. I play him so he can be the outraged person and that he takes it to the mat. But he is talking about things that are really happening and that are going on. But I'm saying that these things have been going on for as long as America's been here, and that this is a time for us to change. And right, see, all of media is in a certain element, basically prejudice. Even me, I'm prejudiced, you know. I'm prejudiced to serve God's co-creation. You know, I am God's doula, you know, so that's it. Do I get, you know, incensed? You know, I get incensed? Yes, I get incensed about everything. Because see, you know, Goebbels said the best propaganda is the one that has 60% truth, about 30% um, dis, you know, let's say lies, and then 10% that kind of look over here, you know, instead of look over there, right? So um, I'm totally stoking fear, want, won't want spin up change, right? Um, and so the fear is, you know, good old FDR said one of the better things he said, you know, the only thing to fear is fear itself. I mean, you know, fearing any of this stuff, it's like I'm saying that the stuff the guy says, that happens every day. That's nothing new, you know? They put people in jail, they kill them, they murder them, they do all those kind of things. They've been doing it like the last 16,000 years. They have these wars that don't need to happen, you know? There's, you name it, our government is doing it, right? And the thing is, there is no right or left wing. They are two wings of the same corporate bird. The only way this is going to work out is that we, the individual person, becomes aware of who we are on the inside. And we find that little black hole on the inside that is like wanting, right? And in that space of wanting, we stuff things into it: food, sex, drugs, all these things that we think are going to fulfill it. The only thing that's going to actually fulfill that space that is lacking is the aspect of our ability to co create through love by being consciously intent. And that's where we're at, right? We're at this place where we have to truly forget about what all these other people. I think everything that Donnie's doing is great because it is showing up like AID, right? You know, if anyone knew what AID did, you would want to freaking get rid of it, right? And it does things. You know, there's this thing, you know, when gangsters go into your store and say, "Oh, give me money, or I'll you know, shoot your kids and you know, set your place on fire." That's what AID does, right? It's, you know, AID, State Department, you know, Defense Department. You know, back in the day, we were at least honest. We called it the War Department. You know, up until 1947, we called it the War Department. So it's not like um, none of this has been done before. It's always being done, right? The thing is when people basically say, you know, well, that's nice, and basically be their better self and help their neighbor. And when the catastrophe hit this place, um, everyone did that, and they were like, it was like, wow, everyone was so zipped on being their better self that it changed this whole neck of the woods for about, you know, 4 months, and now everyone's kind of going back to you know, going along to get along, right? And so that guy who's like totally, you know, outraged about everything he's talking about is true. You know, the networks never tell the truth. I mean, a little, like, again, propaganda is that thing that basically, you know, basically says, the big lie through telling the truth, or what seems to be the truth, or kind of, well, that's okay, and then um, active propaganda is like when it's telling you something that you want to hear. And with these little devices here, right? This is a spy device on you. You know, the only reason you get to use like Google free and all that because they are sopping up who you are. Now, I'm a guy who is like this. Hey, this is me. I don't really put on it false edges. Now some people don't like it, find it. Oh, that's so terrible. Blah blah blah. I don't want to hear it. Blah 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 blah. Right? Well, let me stick my head in the sand. And, you want to do that? Hey, but getting sand in your eye and your ears, up your nose, in your lungs, in your taste buds, not too good. So the better thing is to see how beautiful the world is, to see how nice the nicer side of people. And as my mom would say, I keep saying this, get more flies with honey than vinegar, meaning the nicer you are to people, the nicer they are to you. Then their nicer self comes out. And no one is born evil. No one is born terrible, right? It's a habit. If you're habitually a dickhead, you're going to be more and more a dickhead, right? Or as the Australians say, a Richard Cranium, right? So, what I'm saying, why I play this stuff, because it's touchstones. I mean, they are doing all this stuff, right? And they are, and see, that's the beauty of Donnie. That's why I think he's great, because he's going and just ripping and tearing. He's going to take all the money out of the treasury and totally bankrupt the country. The country's already bankrupt. It's already been done. It's a done deal, though. It's nothing's there. And that's the beauty. I mean, Biden pretended things were there, but there's nothing there. And so by Donnie and Elon doing this, and I don't think they really, they are doing it because they're being manipulated to do it through their ego and their fear. They're the ones who are, scared shitless. I have nothing to lose. People who are, got nothing to lose, there's two sides to having nothing to lose. If you've been beaten down so hard that you are just a beat dog, you got nothing to lose, right? And that's when that beat dog becomes pretty dangerous, because you got nothing to lose. They'll bite your arm right off, right? Now, the other guy who's not been beaten down, but has, on their own auspices, not lived the life of materialism and hedonism, or isn't living life. They may have lived like me. I did live that life, And the interesting thing is, all the different lives I lived, I never had to give up or give in, right? I just was there, had an opportunity to do a skill set that I do well for a very nice profit, and I would do it, right? And I didn't see it as I'm being, totally, selling out, blah, blah, blah. No, because when I would do it my kind of way. That was that little pebble in the pond of the World Wide Web or the corporate world, or meaning I didn't go in there wearing a suit and looking just like them and out suiting them and, out Richard Crane them. No, I went in there as being me, right? And straight up, honest, right? Let me read your palm, right? And then telling, that was my crowbar to get into them, right? Once I could just tell them who and what they were, like that, not having to beat around the bush. Oh, you're honest. Oh, you lie a lot, or you're very close-lipped. Oh, you're passive aggressive. Oh, you're scared about this. Oh, you're have these dreams about this. And I could just go bore straight in, because after 5 years of playing Shrinky Boy for Shrinky Boys, meaning I built, processes and strategies and things of that nature within the construct of the psychologic world that enabled guys who had all these, degrees and licenses and stuff to get better outcomes and make more money and make their businesses more successful. Right? They paid me a lot of money to do that, right? And would give me access to whatever. It's like Elon Musk, right? He gets all this access because he's got a lot of money, and he is just a con artist. He's not some. He's not inventing that rocket ship. He didn't invent the Tesla car. These two other guys did, and he stole it from them. And he had someone behind him. All of these guys, Micro Penis, Billy Boy, Faceless Facebook Boy, Richard Cranium Head, Boy, all those boys, they were put there. They're reading a script. They're a poster child. And Donald is too. Donald is basically just a game show host. This, I wonder who's watching this on whatever network. This is just entertainment. That first film about being a warrior in the Roman Colosseum, they made a second one. Anyway, the end of that first movie, after he kills everyone and there's blood everywhere and he's covered in blood and he's holding the head of the emperor and he's screaming at the Colosseum audience, "Are you entertained yet? Are you entertained yet?" It's like, that's really the thing that should be asked of all the folk on this planet. Are you entertained yet? Is this really getting you off? So Fish, come on, you know me better. Push out the far folks of both sides. Middle is starting to come together. Yes, to push out the far folks of both sides. Exactly, right? And that's kind of how it kind of works. Tweak, freaky, outer. Okay. Tweak, freaky, outer. Is that like a belly button? Anyway, so, I could play more of, Rachel Maddow, whatever. But the guy with the white hair, he is kind of like Stephen Greer, meaning he's really, believes what he's doing. He really wants to do the right thing. He is trying to wake up, the middle. And it's actually woke it up because most people have, didn't care. How could anyone, basically, if you wanted just the status quo and everything to go along to get along, should have voted for the girl. She was, no better, no worse than Biden or Donald Trump. Really, none of these guys are better or worse than each other. I view Donald Trump better in a way in that he is so off the hook that he's doing everything. This is going to destroy, just bring collapse. Like I said, Elon Musk is inside the treasury, robbing the piggy bank, and there's nothing there, right? This is all being pushed to bring forth the new order, right? Which is same as the old orders. Nothing new is going to be coming down the pike unless, as Fish said, the middle is starting to push out the far end folks, right? And that's when it kind of works. But the thing is, once that occurs, right, you have to stay involved. You can't just do it and then, right? So you have to stay involved, because the thing about Elon and Donnie and the Heritage Foundation is that, they came in with a plan, 2025, and Donnie, I never read it. He probably never did. I don't know what he's talking about. He doesn't, right? He just reads the script that's on the teleprompter at the moment, right? He is a game show host, Tell them what they want, Bob, So, Donnie, who's our new contestant, So that's where we're at. And we can, resource-based economy, right? And that's, a recipe for collapse, because resources, if you have a resource-based economy, resources are not, they are not sustainable, right? Oil is not sustainable on many, many, many levels. I mean, you burn enough of it, you make enough crap out of it, like plastic. I mean, we are going to choke on that shit before we run out of it, because oil is not a fossil fuel. It's not made out of old dinosaurs. No, it is the synovial fluid of the planet. It's like the oil can. That's because many, Earth is not a gigantic rock. There are all these different layers, and they all need a little lubricant to keep everything moving around. Right? So it's time for my nap, because there is a direction one can go, meaning energy-wise, right? Zero-point energy was discovered many, many times. Anti-grav. I mean, that's how they built the pyramids. These gigantic, 120-ton blocks. They're not rolling them around on logs, and then setting them to a perfection of construction that we can't do today, right? You go to the pyramids in Giza, and you try and slide a piece of paper between those two rocks. You can't do it. They're like almost glued together, right? There were technologies that were used there. You go down into the inner caves of the pyramids, and they're highly decorated. The walls are, right? And yet there is no soot on the roof. There is no carbon anywhere from torches burning. I mean, how do they paint that stuff if they couldn't see that stuff? They had lights, artificial lighting, probably LEDs, right? Or some other source that didn't burn carbon, right? So this stuff is right in front of our face, but the powers that shouldn't be constantly keep that information outside of the normal realm. Meaning you can find these things out. You can read these textbooks. You can read ancient things, you can, see what's going on, but it's not out in the general public. And the general public is so lazy. I mean, we're going to get rid of the education department. Yeah, we don't need to educate these kids anymore. We just need them stupid and prejudiced. And that's a new motif, but also the old motif. Very, very, very few folk are ever part of the ruling class. That even the ruling class that we see, all our politicians, all of the bankers, all the rich, Elon, Neon Musk, all of those people, they're morons. You talk to any of them. They talk interviewed on TV. They are morons. And the guys who kind of are smart-ish really only are smart-ish on a subject. One Mr. DeGrasse Tyson, astronomist or astrophysicist or whatever he is. He is pretty good at what he does. His little subject matter, he's kind of sharp, but you can't take him anywhere else, right? His basic field of understanding is kind of limited. Oh. Venus Project. Yes. We've been to all the planets. We have this thing called, solar ward, and it's been around for a long time. Venus Project proposed an alternative vision of the future if we apply what we already know in order to watch our documentaries, Fresco, visit resource-based economy. Oh, there we go. Global holistic solution resource-based economy. Global problems faced by humanity today are impacting individuals and nations rapidly. Climate change, energy contraction, famine, war, epidemics, deadly disease, environmental pollution contribute to a long list of global challenges we as humans need to promptly address before eventual catastrophic, swiftly becoming inevitable collapse. Yep. Regardless of political, philosophical, religious beliefs, or social customs, all socioeconomic systems ultimately depend upon natural resources such as clean air and water, arable land, and necessary technology and personnel to maintain a good standard of living. Modern society, and what is a good standard of living? Right? Modern society has access to highly advanced technology and can make available food, clothing, housing, medical care, a relevant educational system, and develop less contaminating energy such as geothermal, solar, wind, and tidal. Individuals and interest groups are governed by laws that demand maximum profit where possible. These laws are inherent in the monetary system prevalent in most countries today, capitalism. The basic principle of capitalism demands exponential growth at all costs, causing financial cataclysms such as the 1929 Great Depression in the United States, recent financial crisis in '07, '08, and pretty much we have one. We had the dot-com bubble in '91, right? The oil embargo is '72. Most of our problems today are technical, but we are still looking for solutions through political means. We need to accept the. See, again, this guy is. This is all true, right? This is like propaganda. It's 60% true, but there's that 10% that's missing, and that is, um, hey Jane, good to see you, girl. Um, it's the spiritual, not religious, but spiritual component. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Yes, Albert Einstein. Now, there was a guy who could think outside the box. The Venus Project proposes a historical approach with a global socioeconomic system that utilizes the most current technologies and scientific advantage and promote higher possibilities living standard of all people on Earth. This depends on the available energy and correlation of other overlooked. The proposed system is called the resource-based economy. The term, that meaning, was coined by Jack Fresco, a founder of the Venus Project. There was another Venus Project, but I guess I'm not talking about that one. Oh, 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 oh. So, Jane, what would you do to fix our present planetary problems? What is your vision? Let's hear your vision. Right. You think about it, Jane, and everyone talk amongst yourselves, right? I'll be right back. I need to get a little hoodie. Okay, I'm back. There's two of you there. This Jane. Okay. Freedom, liberty, pursuit of happiness for all. Right. So how do you do that? Right? Especially when you got like right now those 8 or so billionaire bros who are in the front row of Donnie's, little party when he got sworn in, right? Mr. Faceless Book, Mr. Neon Husk, and you know um, Lex Luthor. Those three guys, right, have close to 3/4 of all the wealth in the United States. Right? They have close to 40% of all the wealth and power on Earth. So how can you give freedom, liberty, pursuit of happiness for all when 3/4 of the 8 billion people in the in the world are starving to death on 40 cents a day, right? How come we are going to the only thing that Donnie did in his 4 years within kind of um, constitutionally passing a bill that Congress and Senate voted on was the $8 trillion tax break for the wealthiest people in the world, right? So when you have, like when I was doing pretty good working for the corporate world, and I only worked 11 weeks of the year, right? And those 11 weeks earned me almost a six-figure salary. I didn't. I kept my salary under six figures just for tax reasons, right? But people said to me, if you just worked, you'd be a millionaire. And if I if I had a gig like that every, yeah, I'd be a millionaire or two or three, right? But then I'd have to work all the freaking time, and I'd have to live like those desperate lawyers that I was, experiencing their desperate life of titty bars and overindulgence and everything, and gigantic yachts and amazing houses, and not just one, but like 20 of them, and still they were like, I was under the six-figure salary, and they were 11-figure salaries. I mean, that's a pretty big salary. And still, they were so overextended that they were living paycheck to paycheck. Me, I live on $400 right now a month, and I do that pretty comfortably, you know. So uh, and I'm not really fearful of anything, because I've experienced a lot of things that most people would be scared shitless of. And I've died 7 times so far. I've had 3 conscious life reviews, right? So it's not like, uh-oh, I see it clearly. And so saying, why do those billionaires, those trillionaires, need that kind of money? They don't. But so why do they go after it? Because they have such a large hole in their existence that they just constantly. I mean, look at Neon Husk. Just look at what he was like a monkey on meth when he was, shilling for Donnie, and he was getting off on it, you know. feeling that that love. When I worked in rock and roll, like I said, I was Emmy at you know Madison Square Garden and SG. That's what I think we used to call it. But anyway, that place, so the Rolling Stones are on stage and they're playing to the 50,000 or so people who are in that, and it was like they're all right there. The energy was unbelievable, and I was just, on stage right watching this. I was making sure that the buzz didn't happen and everything worked fine. But I made sure everything was fine before everybody showed up. That's the secret of success. Not say, well, it'll be okay. Make sure that everything is covered, no problems, and you've got a um, a strategy for no matter what happens. Plan for the worst, be happy with the best. Apparently, Barron does not like Husk. What's up with they will own nothing and be happy? You know, that's the other side of the coin is they're pushing us to the Star Trek universe, the Federation, where you don't own anything, right? You got a nice little house, you wear this nice little tunic, you fly around in a spaceship and see pretty amazing things, and steal other people's resources. Get those lithium crystals at any cost. So that's not how it works. There's tons of cultures and societies and species out there in the universe. They aren't all going for the old holly dollar, right? And it's kind of interesting that Star Trek was around long enough, had enough shows that really did. I think the best thing that did through its Bible was to show the variance in the DEI of the amazingness of nature's reproductive ability, right? And and the thing that all those different species and cultures could get along with was, let's be nice to each other, and we can do better together than we can alone. So that is the kind of motif where we're at. And apparently Barron. Just look at Barron. That guy. He's if he grows any taller, he's going to be like 10 foot tall. So maybe he is, what do you call the giants? He definitely he's looking more and more like a ET to me, one of the tall whites. So and there's a book about Barron's amazing um, journey, Nephilim. Yep, thank you, Jane. Jane's great. She reads my mind all the time. When I'm at a loss for that specific word, she can go right into my little skull and, oh yeah, that's what he's thinking about. So yeah, so we are at the most amazing, strange, and like I said, the next strangest thing is the aliens show up, and it would be true to form that Baron is the Nephilim, because her mother, the Hamburglar, she's an interesting piece of work. It's interesting that she's an illegal alien immigrant, and so is Neon Musk, Neon Husk, predictive programming of the lithium crystals, or lithium, exactly. So the lithium was the thing that was they brought lithium to absolute zero and used it as a medium for the hydrogen bomb. Meaning, it was this thing that deuterium was inside this capsule, and that's the thing that's, is hydrogen. But hydrogen is so light, it's like everywhere, right? Where deuterium is a pretty dense material, and you coat it up in the lithium, or I think something close to that, and bring it to absolute zero. When you detonate the atomic bomb, which is then that crystalline material, it's like a lens and puts all the X-rays into the deuterium that causes the thermonuclear reaction, the fusion. And so those materials were originally first used and developed for a hydrogen bomb. So, but you need an immense amount of X-rays to be focused on this material. To just like in plutonium, they wrapped high explosives all around it and cut them in shapes and forms and put it around the chunk of plutonium. So when they detonated them, and that was the really problem they had with the fuses, meaning they had to detonate like 600 chunks of super duper high explosives, so they'd all go off at the same time and compress that sphere of plutonium so it would ignite. And that was the hardest thing. And who gave us those triggers but the Nazis? Our atomic weapons would not have worked without the gift that keeps on giving. Hail Hydra. So we are at the strangest, weirdest moment that we know of for ourselves. There's been plenty of other strangest, weirdest moments through that 16,000 years since Babylon. But this is one of those, and there are all through that linear experience of Babylon to now. There are many points where there were these junctures in time and space that I call the Great Splat. And that's where we are now. What pure earth metal does Trump want in Ukraine? There are a lot of them. There's a lot of things in that neck of the woods. But the thing that Ukraine has most is very arable land. It really is the breadbasket, right? And the more we have war there, the less arable it gets. Reptilian equals Nazi. Pretty much, pretty much. However you want to, state it, pretty much, right? And again, it's, the guy who was Marvel Comics, Stan Lee, Captain America, he got that right, that everything about Captain America, those three movies, is exactly what it is, right? And especially the second one where all the congressmen, senators, everybody and his brother was Hail Hydra, So it's, again, we're at this interesting point of time, and why I play people who go on about what's going on with Trump or this or that is that they are so hyped up on either whatever they're drinking or eating or their emotional state that it does represent. Fish said, "Oh, I need to watch more right-wing stuff," right? No, because these guys, they are so wound up that no matter what they're saying, they are representing that same kind of energy. Yes, same kind of energy that Jane just said. Reptile equals Nazi. And calling reptiles Nazis is, I mean, I know some nice reptiles. I know some nice snakes, some nice boa constrictors, some nice, I wish one of my friends' boa constrictor was right now in my man, not my man cave, but my deck house. I have a few rodents that just won't get the cue. They just won't leave, right? I am gonna have to clean everything out, right? And have nothing there for them. But that's going to take a lot of effort. And anyway, it's a D with an exclamation point, or a DL, or a D down low, or anyway. Um, oh, here we are, 1 hour and 1 minute, and 39 seconds, 40 seconds, 41, 42. That Canada will be. No, you know what I would love to see? I heard one of the Canadian politicians state I mean, it would probably be good for America to absorb Canada. They at least are polite. They might bring something polite with attitude. That's Canadians. So, what I would love to see is that the Canadians would go talk to California and Washington and Oregon, all the states on the coast there, and bring them into Canada. That would be great, you know. I mean, basically, Donald Trump is one of the more clear-cut character actors of problem, action, solution. Right? He says, "Oh, the problem is the fentanyl's coming in over the border, blah 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 blah." Right? So Mexico does what they've been doing already, and then Donnie said, "See, I forced them to do that, and now fentanyl is dropping down," and it is. Uh, so, so I've had a number of friends who have split the country. They're like so woke that they think end times are coming here. And I've known them a long time, 30 years or so. And I've been talking the same way for 30 years, for 60 years. I mean, I was aware of this going on from 1963 on. Because, I mean, in 1957, when I saw an above ground nuclear test in a Nevada test site, my dad took me to one. Because even though he wasn't wearing the uniform, once you get to a certain level in the military, you're never out. Yeah, you can go do other stuff, but whatever your skill set was, and if they need it, they call you back in. And they pay you better then, right? They pay you better. Because usually you get called back in and you're no longer under the auspices of your uniform, you're under the auspices of your agreement. And they can pay you more for that, right? And you wear a suit, right? So, anyway, That was my dad, and since he wasn't a general, he didn't do it all the time. Only when they needed him did they kind of bring him in, and it usually wasn't for any big deal because he, where do you think I got my little predilection for, you know, being able to suss out situations and develop protocols and things of that nature. Let's see.
Down the Senate. Yeah. Shut down the Senate. Shut down the Senate.
This is not a scam. All American Senior on Medicare can apply for the 2025 Healthy Allowance Card.
Hey! Do something about it.
Hey! All right, Representative David Mann, where are you? There we go.
Do something, Chuck Schumer.
Hey, all. So I was just elected to represent the 47th Congressional District in California. I succeeded Katie Porter. And like Katie, like Senator Warren, before going into politics, I was a law professor. And we're here because we are in a constitutional crisis, the likes of which we have never seen in this country.
Yeah.
We're here because Elon Musk, an unelected billionaire, is repeatedly and blatantly breaking the law, including by usurping all authorities, the legislative and appropriations authority expressly reserved to Congress. Now, the Constitution is simple. We appropriate the money and Treasury delivers it, but Elon Musk taking it over threatens all that. Musk has claimed powers that even the president does not hold, including the power to, quote, delete agencies that he doesn't like, agencies that Congress created and funded. Now, who the hell gave Elon Musk this authority?
Nobody.
No one.
Nobody.
It's not in the Constitution until yesterday. Elon Musk had no official role with the administration. Now, all of us up here today, we had to take an oath.
All right, let's keep the energy going. Let's get some blue hearts in the chat. American flags. We're taking our country back. Stop the coup. Stop the coup. Stop the coup. Stop the coup.
Now, the White House claimed just yesterday Elon Musk is a special governmental employee. Now, and there's no evidence that he was ever appointed that role, but let's be clear. He is special, very special,
No, he's not.
but not in that kind of way.
Right.
And special
No, he's
governmental
not.
employees do not have the right to delete agencies, fire federal employees, shut off access to their accounts.
No.
But let's step back and ask, why did Elon Musk want to take control of the payment system? That's the $64 trillion question. And we know why, because he made clear he wants to cut $2 trillion from our budget. Now, if you look at our budget, there's not $2 trillion to cut.
All right.
Massively cut
All right.
security
All right. We got it.
and that is what's happening.
All right. Nothing like a Democrat to give you a process speech.
To shut off your Social Security, Medicare, any payments he wants with the flip of a switch. Obviously, he has control of our information as well. He has broken the law time and time again. This cannot stand. He must be held accountable. He must be made to pay. We must enforce the law.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Look at this guy.
Lock him up. Lock him up. He is breaking the law. Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock him up. But guys, we are 1,200 subscribers away from 300,000. 1,200. Each and every one of you on this channel.
Yes. And see, Elon Musk does not have that power. Again, I'm telling you, this guy is a poster child. He was put there to do all this stuff for the hidden hand, the whatever you want to call it, the powers that shouldn't be, because they're pushing the world. First, they had to first they had to take care of different entities. They had to take care of Russia. They had to take care of Ukraine. They had to take care of the EU. And that's what that war did. EU is kind of in a position where it's about to fall apart, right? Especially if the war keeps going and Russia pushes the point, right, where NATO has to get involved, right? And then, then a few nukes would fall, right? The other thing that had to happen is what's happening in the Mideast, right? And that is the destruction of Israel, right? And it's not so much that the bottom line is there's a big difference between the Hebrew tribes and Israel state, not even nation, state. And so that is where we're at. What is, and they're killing themselves. Israel is shooting itself in the foot, and it's doing it emotionally because when you spend 15 months bringing that kind of terror and suffering and violence to innocent people, mommies and babies, these people did not have Kalashnikovs, they were burnt alive in little tents, So the bottom line is emotional catastrophe to the Israel state, right? And again, like I said, Neon Husk does not have those powers. He is basically the poster boy. He is basically being set up, as is Donald Trump being set up as the excuse, right? Because why Donald didn't win in 20, and basically Jojo, the used car man, was put in his place, was that Jojo had to do certain things, set certain things up. So then Donald Trump could come in and destroy other things so those other things that were set up can take their place. And the chaos that will emerge, that will be planetary in state, needs to have someone to blame. And what better person to blame than a psychopathic game show host and his sidekick, Neon Husk, So, Neon, who's our next contestant? Oh, our next contestant is Greenland. Our next contestant is, why would anyone even want Panama? None of our ships, none of the humongous container ships can go through there. Our Navy, none of our aircraft carriers can go through there. None of our large ships can go through the Panama Canal. There is no, but if you have a war there and we nuke it, right? And we drop about 20 nukes, boom, 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 in that 58-mile thing between the Atlantic and the Pacific coast, that would blow out enough dirt that you wouldn't need locks. You wouldn't need any of that. The thing would just be straight waterway, and big boats could get through. Bait and switch, yep. How many countries in total do you think depends on U.S.? Well, not so much depends, because that level of depends was starting to go out the window with the oil embargo, right? And then really caught fire in Desert Storm, right? 91. And then went into a tornado and in, the debacle of 20 years, never-ending war of Georgie Dickey and what do they, Barney? Is that what they call Obama? Barney? I don't know. What is his boyfriend call him? I don't know. So anyway, that's where it is. And JoJo and Donnie Trump, they are just the guys who were, lighting, not lighting the fuse, but being that. In England, they had these things called crackers where you pull the two ends and there's a little firecracker and it kind of explodes and little stuff flies through the air. Barry, right? Barry. I like Barney better. I like thinking of Obama as a purple dinosaur or purple black man, maybe. Because, Obama is not black. I am more an African American than Barney. So, Barry. Anyway, oh, there's three of you there. Good. We're getting there. Four of us now. So come on. Let's have some more edifying conversation here. So what do you think would be the thing that could be best? Resource-based economy, all goods and services are available to all people without the need for means to exchange such as money, credits, barter, or any other means. For this to be achieved, resources must be declared common heritage of all Earth's inhabitants. And that means you have to utilize those resources in the most propitious way that's there to all, not just some. Because basically, white male European has had this extraction economy for the last 1,100 years and has always taken other people's stuff to make themselves rich. That's the thing that has to change, and that's not capitalism. And capitalism is energy and matter, kind of equal each other. You can turn one into the other, and that's what a replicator does. And we have that technology. We have that technology to, teleport matter. Right? So here we are. We also have technology to bend time and space dimensionally. So you don't have to go 100, spend years traveling 100 billion light years. You can just bend the fabric of time and space and put those two ends of those two locations together and just step through a doorway. And that's how ETs are getting to visit us. They come that way. Yeah, they may have little sports cars that they run around in, but they come here through a doorway. So, what can I say? But we have the ability to figure this out, right? But we have to do it together. We can't continue to look at, look what, the Zionists were saying about the Palestinians. And the Palestinians are, the Jewish cousins. They are the same people. They were calling them animals, dogs. And when you kill people in that manner, it kills something inside of you. If you kill anybody for any reason, it kills something inside of you. That's why when I was trained, one of the oaths I took was to do no harm with my skill sets, period. Right? Only to be there as a doula of God's love, period. That's it. That's all I'm here to do. Right? And so I'm taken care of. I have no need to worry about anything. So I'm here to serve, love, co-creation, period. Right? That's why I do this show, right? I don't do it for any other reason, right? I like seeing y'all. Janie is always here, and pretty much all of the cadre jumps in and out, and shows their dues. So, does the question is, can we stop the globe from becoming monoculture, and should we even try? That's an interesting thing. But the thing is, the concept of monoculture is like, so when you think of monoculture, what do you think of? Velveeta cheese, right? So I lived in a place that was a salad bowl. It was, PS 122 had over 600 different racial groups, different cultural groups, and we spoke about 70 different languages in that school. No one said, "Oh, everybody's got to speak English." No, all these immigrants, they all spoke, Polish, Lithuanian, Estonian, you name it, they spoke it. Zimbabwean, whatever. We had a ton of different people whose cultures were different, and we all went to the same school, and we all played out on the playground with each other, and we were all with each other and were friends to each other, and we honored our school before anything else. But we never lost sight or actual being of that culture, whatever it was. Right? So we don't have to become a monoculture like Velveeta cheese. We can be a collective salad bowl society. Right? And that's kind of what the Federation is supposed to be. You got not only all these humans, but all these different other races from other different planets and solar systems, and you name it. And I like the other semi Star Trek show that's new, the Oracle or whatever that is. I like that show. They do a pretty good job because they show humans as being more human. They do a better job. I guess they had enough. They had 50 years of watching Star Trek to do a better job, and they do a good job. And I was showing you sci-fi shows from the 70s. I mean, humans are the most creative characters on the planet. And the one thing they can do better than any other species is that they can work together to accomplish something that individually they could never do. Right? Like going to the moon with the Saturn V, I would step by a show of people. And if you take into account the 100 and something million or 200 million people who were living in the United States at the time paying taxes, that was quite a collective effort, right? And whether we got there in the way, first of all, the moon is an artificial satellite. It is the Death Star. And it's hollow on the inside, and there are lots of people on the inside there. And there have been people living on that moon for a long time. And there are people who've been living on all over the planets of the solar system. And we had a solar community that had a government, and we had a war, and we blew up a planet that was between Earth and Mars. And that is the Oort belt, right? That's all the asteroid shit, right? And that's why there's a gigantic rip across Mars from one end to the other. That's, as long as the Grand Canyon is in Colorado, that's how deep it is and wide it is on Mars. And it goes from one end of Mars, I mean, this big, all these, part of a planet came flying and zipped across Mars. Didn't smash into Mars, it just, and it made this gigantic scar go across it and basically ripped a good portion of the atmosphere out into space. So there is an atmosphere there, and it's, you could breathe it kind of, but it's extremely light. So it could keep you alive. Ugh. But you wouldn't need the kind of spacesuit you need to walk on the moon, right? Because there is an atmosphere, there's pressure there, there's a lot of things that we need to get around. So our little spacesuit in Mars would be, not quite the big deal that the spacesuits we need to go out into the vacuum of space. So, norms. Question. Should I? Social norms. Okay, social norms. Well, the social norm thing has to be understood that things change, first off, right? Second of all, the basic, if you say, okay, we need some social norms, the bottom line of the social norms is to do no harm. Period. Not like, okay, everyone, 90% of everyone gets what they want, 10% they get put in the shitter, right? No. No one gets hurt. No harm is done. And we consider all our relations, not just humans, right? But everybody, feathered, furred, scaled, silicon, everything that has a consciousness. Right? And just because that consciousness is not like our consciousness, we're not superior. We're just different. Right? So, like, whales, a blue whale has a brain the size of a Volkswagen Bug, right? So, and ours is like, the size of a, not that big. Right? So, we're talking about brain size, and other animals are a lot quicker, smarter, more agile than we are. Right? They don't have opposable thumbs, but other ones, there are a lot of animals that use tools, You don't need thumbs to make tools. You just have to have a mind that can look at what's going on and say, all these ants, and I want to eat them. And I can't really get at them because they're just out of my tongue's way. Oh, look at this little stick. How about I just stick it down there and do this, and then go, oh, that works very nicely, right? Well, and what's really interesting? I was part of the, I had a friend, Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger in New York, right? And Pete Seeger was, he lived on the Hudson, grew up on the Hudson, and it was turned into a cesspool. And you go read Henry Hudson's log of his first going up the Hudson River. And he described it, this is like the Garden of Eden, because the Indians, the forests were everywhere, and the Indians grew, crops in the forests, right? They didn't chop down the trees to put rows, to put crops, they planted them, right? And ones that need sunny, they put them in part of the forest that the sun was there, ones that didn't. I mean, they had it down. So he was like, he couldn't believe it. There was food everywhere. There was trees everywhere. There were plants everywhere, animals everywhere. Everything was in superabundance. And when he kind of stepped on terra firma up the Hudson, within a second or two, there were some Indians coming out of the woods saying, "Yo, how you doing? What are you up here?" Right? So, because the Indians knew about Europeans pretty much way before even Christopher Columbus, because there were other, Europeans, white, pink skins that had come and visited before, and there were a number that stayed. There Vikings that stayed up there in Newfoundland and kind of came down into the upstate New York and that whole neck of the woods, and met the Iroquois nation and kind of got along with them. And there are a whole bunch of Iroquois guys that are whiter than white, blonde hair, and blue eyes. Uh, So I'm going back to the deep green so I can sleep in my own bed. I've had it with concrete. So, but you won't see me as much because I won't have any internet. And my road is totally whacked. And so I'm not going to. I just got a hold of my neighbor and they said, "Oh, yeah, let's fix the road." So in a week or two or three or four, it's going to get cold again. And maybe my other churchy folks will come and get me and take me on to. So talk amongst yourselves. Well, no, I'm going to stay here for a second, I think.
Jeremy, now get us to hit that goal of 300,000. We can hit it in the next half hour.
Because we model the values of diversity and inclusion. Well, that is what America's about. Don't let us then tell us we're not American. We are the true Americans here. America is about us. We have to reclaim our country. USA! 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 Thank you. Thank you, Representative Lynn. Senator Ed Markey, come join us down here. Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, Ed.
Our patriots, our revolutionaries, they fought against King George. They wanted a democracy. They did not fight.
No, they didn't want a democracy. Most of the Americans or the people white, pinkskins who were here, a third of them were indentured servants, slaves. The other third were guys who had just gotten through being it, and so were kind of like had little shops, mercantile, right? And half of those guys just walked into the forest because, first 150 years of America, pretty much nobody went into the deep, right? New York City was there before Hudson went way up the Hudson, right? So a lot of, during the revolutionary times, people just kind of went out and, met some Indians, said, "Hi, I want to be your friend. All I want is a little plot. I just want to grow some food and be left alone. And maybe we can be good neighbors." And there was a lot of that going on, right? And if more of that had gone on, and the sad thing was in that 200 or, 1492, 15 to 16, 16 to 17, first 200 and something years of Europeans being here, the French and the English basically got along with the Indians and had treaties with them. But soon as the founding fathers declared independence, all those treaties were gone. And that amendment that if you're born in America, you were a citizen. Well, that was true for everybody who wasn't a woman or black or Indian. So these are issues that are relative to our history. And, come on, let's understand what's going on. So, and so when you see politicians like that, they represent those people who want to own everybody else. Now, the Chinese guy, who's a new senator, he just got voted in as a representative. I guess he hasn't gotten the envelope yet. But, and they are not all the same scumbags, There's a different, there are a lot of people, like I've known a lot of these guys, and they basically say, yeah, you got to go along, get along. But, I'm way better than the guy who would be here if I wasn't here. And that's how American politics has been going on for the last 200 years. No one really has a firm spiritual sense of what that American oath is, right? What that Constitution is. Because look, it can be walked all over. See, that's the beauty of Donald Trump right now. He's showing that the Constitution means squat. Because they will push the envelope to the point where it's like not even, can't even tell it's an envelope, and then people will get all upset and jump up and down. Just like the kid who was upset at the beginning of this show, I showed him, you heard him go on. And so, the police will come in and Donnie will get, they'll all kind of go away in chains, but nothing, everything has been moved up this way, right? And then just like all the people who got put in jail for, going into the Capitol and then let go, once all the hearings and everyone jumps up and down and gets upset, they will basically be let go again. Just like Nixon, Ford pardoned him, for a reason, because Ford was in the, congressional investigation of the assassination of Jack Kennedy. And Ford was the one who came up with the idea of the magic bullet. So that's why he got to be president, for a little bit. And they got to name aircraft carriers after him, right? So his name can be thrown around as those aircraft, because aircraft carriers are only good for one thing: taking over small countries, bombing the crap out of them. And look what, one of those Ford aircraft carriers is bombing the heck out of the Houthis, right? Yemen. And those guys aren't bending whatsoever, Look at Vietnam. We were there 20 years. We killed 6 million Southeast Asians, We caused total Holocaust in Thailand and Burma and Cambodia. Pol Pot. He was a CIA guy. So you have to go inside. Anyway, how you doing? What do you want to say? Let's hear something from you. Do. We've had some good conversation here. Doze, I like that. Jane, who else? We started out with fish and went to esoteric alchemist, and Jane showed in. And there's Jamie and Doze. So, night is falling. I'm going to go to bed early tonight. A history guy. What's a history guy? See, that's what they call history. I don't know if you got that. Anyway, I need to walk around again. If I stay in one place too long, I start to rust. So instead of leaving something on, so it's now 6:15. I'm going to come back here sometime between 7:30 and 8ish, maybe, and try it again. So keep thinking about what you want to see in the world around you, okay?